In this video, we're going to be talking about how to live frugally and achieve financial freedom. And it may look like I just slept in the bushes last night, but I assure you, I did not sleep in my bushes. By 28 years old, I have now a net worth of over $1 million, a multi-million-dollar business. And along that whole journey, I was able to keep the vast majority of my money. And so in this video, I want to talk about financial freedom so that you can have the lifestyle you want, travel where you want, have the money to buy the things that you want, and be prepared for your future, all the while slowly but surely weeding out all the things that you don't want to do because you have financial freedom. So my name is Jake Ducey with JakeDucey.com. You're watching the I Love Prosperity Show. Make sure you hit the like button on this video right over there, and let's discuss how to achieve financial independence and live frugally, because it's never been more important to discuss this because interest rates are going towards zero. The Fed is debasing and killing the currency. It's creating arguably the largest asset bubble we've ever had because they're making money so cheap to come by. And it's very important that you start to achieve financial freedom right now. Let's dive right into this video. Okay, so first things first, I had it entirely wrong when I started on my journey, and I realized, wow, I need to have a level of financial independence that's growing up things a little bit more difficult than I thought. And all I did is spend all my time pitching pennies. The problem with that is that most people don't make enough money where even if they're saving 50% of their income, it's not enough money in order to make any substantial headway. You need 60, 70 years if you're just pitching pennies. And in this video, we're talking about how to achieve financial freedom. So we're not talking about a 70 or 80 year timeline. We're talking about doing it in a reasonable time. And I ran into that problem. I developed the habit of saving money, which was great, but the numbers in the bank account weren't really getting substantial at all. And so I started, most importantly, realizing that at the end of the day, a penny is gonna be a penny. And there's so much frugal talking, and there's so much stuff about FIRE, financial independence, retire early. There's so much stuff about how to save money and how to budget, and you need that habit. But don't forget about earning more money. There's never been a better time in human history, an easier time in human history in order to start a business, in order to produce additional sides of income. And so what I recommend as a start is you keep your job that you presently have, but you ask yourself, how can I generate more income? Maybe you can move to a performance-based opportunity at your job that gives you a higher income ceiling. Now, the problem is people are stuck at occupations that have a static income ceiling. The trouble with that is no matter how many hours you work, you're going to get paid the same amount. And so the biggest multiplier to financial independence is going to be your income if you're talking about financial independence in a quick period of time. So first, start at your existing income source, job, or occupation and ask yourself, is there a way for me to earn more money at this? Is there a way to be more valuable? Is there a way to take more responsibility? Is there a way for my income to, at least in part, be tied to performance? Is there a way for me to move into the sales opportunity? Perhaps have a conversation with your manager or with your boss about how to increase more money. Now, if we have already X'd that off the list and you've done that, which by the way, it should be producing more money for you if you're moving to those opportunities. That's what we need. We need to increase income. Then outside of that, the next question is, how do I develop multiple sources of income? The wealthiest people in the world, and especially people that retire at an early age or just have financial independence at an early age, they almost always have multiple sources of income. Many of the wealthiest people in the world have multiple sources of income, if not every single one of them. And so what I did when I was 21 years old is I realized my one income source wasn't going to cut it. And so I made a list on top of paper and I wrote multiple sources of income out. And I started to think differently, right? Because the thing is, society doesn't teach you and schools don't teach you about how to achieve financial independence. And they certainly don't teach you the formula that wealthy people use in order to do that. It's almost always multiple sources of income because you need a multiplier to your income in order to make substantial headway in how much you're able to save and invest. And so what I did is I made that list at the top of the paper. 7 out of 10 of them probably sucked, but I found a couple that I could start to work on. Now, keep your present income source that you already have, but start to build your additional one. This is the exact process that I took my wife through a few years ago. She was folding clothes at Brandy Melville clothing store, obviously, and she was working for about 12 bucks an hour, hated the job, didn't want to be there anymore, wanted to make more money, felt like she was undervalued for how much energy she was putting into it. And I said, look, you need to develop another income source. And she always wanted to be an artist, a wood burning artist. And so what we did is she started working on Saturdays and Sundays when she had free time. She started working on her art, and eventually she sold her first piece. Then that started building and building and building. She used her job like an investor. Very important. Comment down below, use your job like an investor. Comment that down below, use your job like an investor. Comment that down below. It's so important because what happens is people hate their jobs or they don't want to be there anymore and they're just frustrated with it and they feel like they're underpaid. So instead of keeping that money, what they tend to do is buy things to fill the void of the lack of fulfillment in their income levels or their occupations. You have to do the opposite. You have to treat your job like an investor. So what my wife started doing is she started gradually increasing the percentage of money she was saving until eventually she was saving over 50% of her minimum wage job. By the time she got to the 3 to 6 month range, she had more than enough money in order to go from full-time at her job to part-time. And she was starting to build up a few sales a month in her art. So when she went from full-time to part-time, she could start spending more time on her art. And then it got to a point within 12 months where she was making way more money off of her art than she was originally making at her full-time job. And eventually she had saved so much money that it was very easy to quit and then go full into her art, and it didn't take long before she was going from, you know, however much $12 an hour at a full-time job is, not very much, like $1,800 to $2,300, $2,400, something like that, probably a lot less, to her making $10,000 a month as an artist. This is very important. See, there's a few common threads here. One, she moved to an occupation that had a higher income ceiling. Second, she didn't jump off the life raft before it was starting to produce income, before the income source was starting to fruit. A lot of people quit their job too early. They get stuck in stress, and they didn't save money from their job anyways. You see this all the time. People say they don't want to do their job anymore. They have a better opportunity that can make more money, and they've never saved any of their money. You have to treat your job like an investor and slowly but surely start to develop multiple sources of income. This is the money multiplier that allows you to start to save more money. And when you save more money, you have more money available for financial freedom, investments, and to buy the time that you want to be able to do the things that you desire. Next, very important, you have to actually find a romantic partner that has the same values as you. This is so important. Money is the #1 cause for divorce. You see it all the time. People are not on the same page. So I think one of the things that I did well is that I picked a partner that had the same value system as me. So when I was trying to finally get my feet off the ground financially, start to put some money away and start to be in a better position a few years down the road with a vision in sight, Ashley was on the same page as me. So she stopped buying things she didn't need to buy. She stopped going to buy clothes. For a while, we had to stop eating out. Not forever. Now I have the ability to be able to spend that money because I also have the excess income, but I got a partner that had the same value systems as me. And a lot of times you get two people that have totally different value systems. Now, obviously, it's great to have a partner that has their own unique differences. That's one thing. But it's another thing to have someone who has a totally opposite financial blueprint as you. If that happens and you have somebody that is totally different, like one person's a total entrepreneur, the other person just wants a 40-hour work week job and they want to spend all that paycheck every single time and they're stuck living paycheck to paycheck, there's a possibility that the person that's earning more money, the other person might start spending all that money. They want to go on these lavish vacations without really having much freedom, and they want to buy it on credit cards. There's an incongruence between your value systems, and it's only going to lead to stress. It's going to lead to a lack of romantic intimacy. And it's certainly not going to allow your bank account to grow. And I think that one of the things that's made my wife and I successful in a relationship is we discussed money from the beginning. We discussed it openly. Here's our plan. Here's what we're doing. We're on the same page with our budget. We're on the same page with our savings goal. We're on the same page with how much and what we're spending money on. It's an important conversation that's often swept under the rug. And if you really want to advance, you need to make sure that your romantic partner is on the same value system and financial blueprint as you. So make sure you have those conversations. Next, what was very important is to understand where happiness came from. Earlier in my life, buying Nike shoes, buying fitted hats, buying $50 t-shirts and $50 shorts, I realized, at least in the early stage when I didn't really have money, that wasn't a worthwhile thing to be spending 5-10% of my income on. A lot of people, it's a lot higher. It's 30-40% of their income, and they're doing it on credit, money they don't have, further indentering themselves into the future. So I realized, and you have to ask yourself, where does my happiness come from? I know me, I know myself. I know I like simple, I like quiet, I like to have free time to be out in nature. I know these things about myself, so I know what truly makes me happy. So I can wear a shirt that I've had for 6 years that is just a plain t-shirt, and I can wear these sweatpants that I got at TJ Maxx like 3 years ago, and I don't care. And it's allowed me to have a lot of extra money. And in the early stages when I didn't have money, it was very important. Now it's just become a habit, and it's just become who I am. I could buy nicer clothes if I wanted to, but it doesn't really matter to me. So you have to ask yourself, what actually makes you happy in life? Because what tends to occur that disables people from building leverage financially is they don't know what makes them happy, and they don't have a deeper sense of fulfillment. So they swipe the plastic, they swipe the credit card, or they swipe the debit card in order to fill that void. Whether it's you're feeling uneasy, so you want to just take a trip. Yeah, sure, it's great to take trips, but if you're doing things out of feeling uneasy emotionally, one, those things never fulfill you, and two, you often are irrational and you spend more money than you need to spend. So you go on a trip you shouldn't go on, and you spend the money that you shouldn't spend, and you buy the clothes you shouldn't buy, or you go out and you spend too much on drinks. Whatever it is, I'm not like some frugal preacher, but what I learned for sure was that if I spent money on things that didn't make me happy, it would only make me miserable. And I decided that what was most important was, in 12 months, to have a huge more space of financial breathing room, so to speak. So ask yourself, what really makes you happy? Next is taxes. Very important if you're talking about having any level of financial independence at an early age or in a quick period of time. There's a reason all the wealthiest people in the world generally have businesses. There is a reason Steve Jobs accepted a $1 salary from Apple. It wasn't because he didn't want money. It was because he got a bunch of back end in shares, and then he's able to push all the taxes off. He gets this humongous growth. Elon Musk has huge back end incentives. Many of the wealthiest people in the world have all of their cash poor. Why are they cash poor? Because they tie up all their money in things that have lower tax rates, or that you can push the taxes on. Whether that's real estate, whether that's stocks, and whether that's other investments in equities or commodities. In addition to that, first and foremost is business owner. So there's a reason Robert Kiyosaki talks about the different quadrants of wealth. There is a reason that most of the wealthiest people are not strictly employees. It's because it's the highest tax bracket. If you can start a side business, you can start to write off portions of your rent. You can start to utilize all of the different legal tax incentives that's going to allow you to keep more of your money. And if you're making, let's say, $100,000 a year, ask yourself, would you rather make $100,000 a year at a steady job, or would you rather make $100,000 a year as a business owner? You're going to want to make $100,000 a year as a business owner because you're going to keep more of that money due to the taxes. So understanding taxes, building a business and an entity, and hiring tax experts and accountants rather than just someone at H&R Block that deals with employees has allowed me to keep far more of my money. And it's a very important thing that the wealthy people all understand, and that the people that are stuck on the financial treadmill very rarely understand. So I encourage you to find a good book on taxes, and more specifically, start one of those side business. Earlier we talked about multiple streams of income. If you could develop one of those as a business, you're going to go so much further financially because of all of the tax benefits that you can have. Last but not least, and we'll have a part 2 and a part 3 on this video as well, what you got to understand, so if we're talking about building multiple sources of income, starting a side business, making sure that your friendships and your romantic relationships are on the same page financially, so you're not blowing all the money that you get, we're talking about increasing your income. Then it comes back to trying to save 50% of your money or more as quickly as possible to get up to that percentage. I started doing that when I found out that Sir John Templeton, one of the most famous investors ever, saved 50% of his money even when he didn't have any money. And so when my income level was at $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month, I started to develop the habit of saving 50% of my money. Now that never ended up to be anything significant, because like we said at the beginning, it's just pennies. And when you think about how much money the Fed is printing and how much it's killing the standard of living because it's making everything more expensive, a few $100 a month, unless it's done for a really long time, it's just not going to add up to that much purchasing power. But what it did do is make me develop the habit of being someone that can acquire money. So when I was able to save 50% of $1,800 in a month, that wasn't the real value. The real value was I was simultaneously working on multiple sources of income, developing a more leveraged business model, and earning more money, employing other people to create more leverage. So all of these things start increasing my income, and my income goes from $1,800 to $4,000, from $4,000 to $6,000, from $6,000 to $8,000, all the way up to $1 million range. That 50% starts to become a multiplier, and this is why we said that additional income sources are multipliers. Growing your income is a multiplier, and it's not something that's discussed a lot in frugality, saving money, and budgeting. But the thing is, if you can develop these habits of keeping a lot of your money, but you can also start to multiply your money, then it becomes significant. Then all of a sudden, in a couple years, I went from being able to save a couple $100s to being able to save 6 figures, to invest 6 figures. I built the habit early on, and then it became something that was substantial. So I invite you to start to push yourself. A lot of times people will say, well, I'll save once I have more money. But the problem with that is you're developing a poor habit, and that poor habit is you're allowing money to dictate your behavior. And if you allow money to dictate your behavior, you're always going to get stuck on this treadmill of I'll do it once I have more. I'll do it once I have more. You have to start to develop the habit of someone who can acquire more money. So this is Jake Ducey with JakeDucey.com, and today we talked about how to achieve financial freedom and living frugally. And it's by understanding who you are, what makes you happy, making sure your friends and your romantic relationships are things that actually fit into your blueprint, into the type of life you're trying to create for yourself. And so if you dig this video, make sure you hit the like button on the side right over there. The like button is what notifies you for new videos, even if you're already subscribed. Just double check, have you actually hit this bell notification? And if you watch this video all the way through, comment down below, I am achieving financial freedom. Comment that down below, I am achieving financial freedom. Comment down below, I am achieving financial freedom. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification right over there. The bell notification is what notifies you for new videos. Even if you're already subscribed, just double check, have you actually hit the bell notification? So have an absolutely fantastic day. I hope you actually do these exercises, such as starting to implement 50% of your savings, making your list of multiple sources of income, and then starting to tackle them and starting to diversify your income sources and starting to grow them exponentially over the years to come. This is going to grow your savings and your investments.